You lost. Civilian. The words cut through the air like a ricochet. Every head in the lobby turned. Rosa Lockwood Vega froze mid-step, one hand still resting on the strap of her worn leather jacket. The petty officer behind the counter smirked, tapping his pen against a clipboard. Restricted facility. Ma'am, the community center's 2 blocks down. Laughter rippled from the admin desk, low, careless, the kind born of arrogance and inexperience. But Rosa didn't answer. She didn't need to. She simply adjusted her grip on the backpack and waited. The kind of stillness that doesn't come from uncertainty. It comes from control. Outside the glass doors, the morning fog rolled off the Pacific and swept across Naval Station Silvercliff. The thump of rotor blades from an MH-60 Seahawk echoed over the bay, mixing with the rhythm of boots hitting the parade ground. The base was waking loud, proud, oblivious. From the far corner, Lieutenant Commander Aaron Whitaker stepped out of his office, coffee in hand, every button on his uniform perfectly aligned. "Problem here. Petty officer number, sir," came the answer. Though the grin didn't fade, just someone looking for directions. Whitaker gave Rosa a quick once-over faded jeans, plain shirt, brown jacket, hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun. No insignia, no ID badge. "Ma'am," he said in that polite but condescending tone officers reserve for the unimportant. "This area is restricted to training staff and cleared contractors." Rosa met his gaze evenly. "I'm here for candidate evaluation support. Commander Mercer sent authorization." Whitaker nodded, as if humoring her. "Of course she did." He gestured toward the waiting chairs. "Have a seat. Someone will verify." She turned slightly, and that's when it happened. The leather jacket shifted just enough for light from the overhead fluorescence to catch the edge of something metallic pinned inside a flash of gold, shaped like an eagle clutching an anchor, trident, and flintlock pistol. The Trident. For a moment, no one breathed. The sound of the coffee maker sputtering was the only noise in the room. The petty officer's grin vanished. Whitaker's face drained of color. Only one thought hit them all at once. She shouldn't have that. Rosa pulled the jacket closed without comment, eyes calm, jaw steady. She looked like someone used to walking through disbelief, used to silence falling wherever she stood. Whitaker cleared his throat. Let me check with command." He muttered, already backing toward his office, as the door swung shut. Rosa's attention drifted to the photos lining the hallway, rows of young candidates running obstacle courses, crawling through mud, carrying logs across surf zones. She'd done all that once. Done it before the world believed she could. Outside, the morning fog began to lift, revealing the sprawling coastal special warfare training center, the place she swore she'd never return to. But ghosts have a way of calling people home. She exhaled slowly. This wasn't going to be a simple visit. The look on their faces told her that much. Somewhere in this base, someone was about to make a call they'd regret or remember forever, because the last time someone underestimated Rosa Vega, it didn't end well for them. You're watching the story of the quiet operator of Silvercliff. Where are you watching from? Soldier, drop your city or country below. Subscribe and stay tuned the moment that call goes through. Everything changes. Chief Petty Officer Malik Bren Ortega was halfway down the corridor when he saw it, that flash of gold. That shape burned into every SEAL's memory. The Trident. He stopped dead in his tracks, the folder in his hand slipping to the floor. For a split second, the world around him dimmed. No voices, no footsteps, no bureaucratic noise, just that impossible gleam. He'd spent 12 years in the teams from Anbar to Helmand, and he knew what that emblem meant. You didn't wear it unless you'd earned it in blood. Salt water and sleepless nights, and you sure as hell didn't fake it. The woman they'd just dismissed at the counter. She was carrying something sacred. Ortega turned on his heel, heart pounding. He pushed through 2 sets of security doors until he reached the skiff, the secure communications room. The keypad blinked red, then green as he punched in his code. Inside, the air was cold and sterile, humming with classified silence. He slid into the console seat, logged in with his credentials, and pulled up a line few people even knew existed direct to Naval Special Warfare Command. The phone rang twice. Special Warfare Operations. Lieutenant Graves speaking. Authenticate. Ortega straightened. Chief Petty Officer Malik Ortega. ID Alpha 274. Silvercliff Training Command. Authenticated. Go ahead, Chief. He swallowed hard. Sir, I need to report a potential misidentification of personnel with classified credentials. A woman was just denied access to the Coastal Special Warfare Training Center. She was wearing civilian clothes, but what she's carrying, a real gold trident. Sir, not a copy. I saw it myself. The line went silent. Then, typing, fast, name. Chief Rosa Vega. Authorization letter signed by Commander Isla Mercer. Another pause, then a change, the kind of cold edge that meant something above his clearance level had just clicked into motion. Chief Ortega, you will immediately ensure Ms. Vega receives unrestricted access to all facilities. Her clearance supersedes this command. This directive is coming from the top. You will brief your CO in chief. This call never happened. The line went dead. Ortega stared at the receiver. He'd called in hundreds of reports before, but never one that made the air feel heavier. Whatever Rosa Vega had done, whoever she'd been, she was still on the radar, and that meant she wasn't just a legend. She was active. He stood, straightened his uniform, and left the SIF with purpose. Outside, the fog had burned off, leaving the Silvercliff coastline bathed in harsh California sunlight. Rosa stood by her old Honda Civic, the leather jacket folded over one arm, about to open the door. Ma'am Ortega's voice carried across the parking lot. He jogged toward her, breath sharp, pulse racing. She turned, her expression calm but wary. Years of experience had taught her that running men rarely brought good news. "Ma'am, please wait," he said, stopping a few feet short. "Chief Ortega." "Ma'am, I need to apologize on behalf of this entire command." Rosa tilted her head slightly. "You saw it?" "Yes, ma'am," Ortega said without hesitation. "And I made a call I probably shouldn't have, but needed to. They confirmed who you are." She studied him. "That'll get you in trouble." He smiled faintly. "Some trouble's worth it." Behind him, movement stirred inside the main building. Through the glass, Rosa could see Lieutenant Commander Whitaker pacing, phone to his ear, his polished confidence cracking. Petty Officer Cole sat at his desk, frozen, pretending to type. The admin clerks who'd laughed earlier now whispered nervously, glancing toward the window. The message had spread faster than any memo ever could. Rosa swung her jacket over her shoulder. "What now?" "Chief Commander Hargrove wants to see you immediately. They're correcting the situation." "Correcting," she repeated softly, like the word tasted different in her mouth. "I've seen a lot of corrections over the years. Most came too late." Ortega didn't know what to say, so he simply nodded. "Ma'am, the commander said you'd have full clearance. You can go anywhere you need." Rosa looked past him, toward the obstacle course shimmering in the sunlight, the forge complex. Candidates were running drills, shouts echoing across the sand. That sound, exhaustion, determination, grit. It was the music of her past. She turned back to Ortega. "Lead the way." As they walked toward the building, the base seemed to shift around them, whispers trailing behind, salutes appearing where none had been before. The kind of respect that comes not from rank, but from recognition. At the entrance, Whitaker waited, pale and uneasy, phone still in hand. Ortega stepped aside to let Rosa pass. She didn't say a word, just walked straight through the same door they'd tried to keep her out of, and behind her. Whitaker's phone buzzed again, a secure line, flashing red. The caller ID read Naval Special Warfare Command, restricted. He hesitated before answering, but deep down he already knew. This wasn't going to be a routine day. Someone at Silvercliff had just insulted a ghost, and that ghost was about to walk straight back into command. The air inside the Coastal Special Warfare Training Center felt different now, charged. Electric, like the calm before an incoming storm, where laughter had filled the lobby earlier. There was only silence. Phones stopped ringing. Conversations cut mid-sentence. Every head turned when Rosa Lockwood Vega walked back through those doors, Chief Ortega at her side. The same petty officer who'd smirked before now stood frozen at his desk, pretending to read an email that wasn't there. The admin clerk suddenly found new purpose in organizing files that didn't need organizing. And near the front counter stood Lieutenant Commander Aaron Whitaker, the man who dismissed her as a lost civilian barely an hour ago. His posture was rigid now, his face pale, voice low as he muttered into his phone. When he looked up and saw her, his jaw tightened. "Miss Vega," he began, stepping forward, his tone, once condescending, now strained with forced respect. "I need to apologize. There was a miscommunication regarding your authorization status. That was on me." Rosa stopped in front of him, her boots clicking once against the tile. She didn't speak, didn't nod. She just looked at him, not with anger, but with the quiet weight of someone who'd learned long ago that silence could be louder than shouting. Whitaker cleared his throat. "Your clearance has been confirmed at the highest level. Commander Hargrove is waiting for you in his office." He gestured toward the corridor. Rosa followed, Ortega one step behind. The hallway was lined with photographs graduates of Silvercliff. Frozen moments of triumph and exhaustion, men knee-deep in surf, faces caked with sand, holding logs overhead. Beneath one of the frames hung a motto carved into a bronze plate. "Earned, never given." Rosa's eyes flicked over it briefly. Some people still hadn't learned the meaning. When they reached the office door, Whitaker hesitated, knocking twice. "Commander, Ms. Vega's here. Send her in." Commander Thomas Hargrove stood behind his desk, silver-haired, posture steady, the kind of presence that didn't need to be loud to command attention. The ribbons on his chest told stories of deployments that had left more scars than memories. "Miss Vega," he said warmly, extending his hand. "Commander Thomas Hargrove, thank you for coming, and my apologies for the reception you received this morning." Rosa shook his hand. Firm grip. Steady eyes. "It's all right. Commander, I've seen worse receptions." Hargrove motioned to a chair. "Please, sit." He rounded the desk and leaned against its edge. "I got a call from Naval Special Warfare Command 15 minutes ago. They made it very clear that you have full operational clearance and the authority to assist in any capacity you deem necessary." Sounds like they didn't want to be questioned. Rosa replied evenly, "They didn't," Hargrove admitted, then paused, studying her face. "I also read your file. Did you, the part that wasn't blacked out?" He said, which, admittedly, wasn't much. "Operation Red Dune, 2009, 3 survivors out of 6, 43 enemy KIA. Mission objectives completed under 0 support. I know someone from the QRF that pulled your team out, said it was the tightest defensive perimeter he'd ever seen." Rosa's expression softened, but her eyes didn't. "We held for 57 minutes. Sir, 3 didn't make it. They bought us the time we needed." Silence. Only the faint hum of the ceiling fan. Hargrove exhaled slowly. "People throw the word hero around too easily these days. You don't seem like someone who enjoys hearing it. Heroes don't come home." "Commander," she said quietly, "they stay behind so others can—" The words hung there heavy, undeniable. Hargrove nodded once. "That's exactly why I need you here. We're about to start evaluation week for our new candidate class. This is the first group to include female operators. Captain Mercer recommended you because she said no one understands quiet resilience like you do. Rosa's eyes drifted toward the window. Outside, she could see the Forge obstacle complex, glinting in the late morning sun. Recruits climbed ropes, fell into sand, got back up again. She recognized that rhythm pain, persistence, pride. They'll need more than resilience, Rosa said. They'll need someone to remind them that strength isn't about shouting louder, it's about not breaking when everything else does. Hargrove smiled faintly. Then they're in the right hands. A knock interrupted them. Whitaker stepped in, looking like a man about to face a firing squad. "Commander," he said stiffly. "You asked to see me." "Yes," Hargrove said. "Lieutenant Commander Whitaker. I think you have something to say, not just to me." Whitaker's throat bobbed. "Yes." "Sir," he turned toward Rosa. "Miss Vega, I owe you more than an apology. I disrespected someone who's done more for this country than I probably ever will. I misjudged you based on what I saw, not what you are." Rosa studied him for a moment, then said softly, "We've all done that. The lesson's in what you do next." Whitaker nodded, the weight of the moment settling on him. "Understood. Ma'am." Hargrove stepped forward, breaking the tension. "We'll be briefing the candidate evaluation at 1300 hours. You'll have full command access. Observe, assess, and tell me which of them deserve to wear the uniform. Donovan will assist." "Understood," Rosa said, standing as she turned to leave. Hargrove added, "Ms. Vega, one more thing. I intend to make this right publicly. The staff will know who you are." She shook her head. "No need. The point isn't to make them remember me. Commander, it's to make them better." Hargrove's expression softened. "Then let's make them better." Rosa stepped out into the hallway again. The hum of the bass now replaced with a new kind of silence, respect, not fear. She glanced once more toward the training grounds. Out there, recruits were sweating through sand and salt water, chasing a dream they barely understood. Tomorrow, they'd find out who was watching them and what it really meant to earn the Trident. And somewhere in that field of faces, a young woman was about to learn that the strongest warriors don't fight for recognition. They fight because they refuse to quit. By noon, the sun over Naval Station Silvercliff had turned brutal, the kind of heat that chewed through willpower faster than sweat could fall. Out on the training field, 23 candidates stood in formation at the edge of the Forge obstacle complex, every muscle tight with anticipation. At the front of the group stood Lieutenant Commander Aaron Whitaker, his voice cutting through the dry air. "Listen up. Before we begin, I have something to say." The candidates fell silent. Whitaker glanced toward the command platform, where Commander Hargrove stood beside a woman in Navy PT gear short-sleeved shirt, standard-issue shorts. No insignia. "Earlier today," Whitaker continued, "this base made a mistake, a serious one." He hesitated, eyes flicking toward the woman. "When Ms. Vega arrived, she was denied entry due to what I called a credentials issue. That was wrong." A murmur rippled through the formation. "Miss Vega is a graduate of the Naval Special Warfare Pipeline and a former operator. She's here to evaluate your performance over the next 60 hours. Listen when she speaks. Learn from her example. The respect she's earned was paid for, not handed out." Then, silence. Only the wind and the soft crash of waves against the far sea wall. Rosa Vega stepped forward. Her presence alone quieted the air. "You've all read about the Trident," she began, voice steady, not loud. "Some of you think earning it means you're done proving yourself. You're wrong. The Trident isn't proof, it's a promise. One you make every day you wake up and choose not to quit." The words didn't come from a motivational speech, they came from memory. And every recruit could feel it. Your trial begins now. The first evolution was a beach run, 6 miles through soft sand. Every step dragged like lead. Rosa moved alongside them in silence, stopwatch in hand, eyes scanning faces, posture, breathing studying more than speed. She marked who carried weight for others, who faltered but refused to stop, who looked for excuses. By mile 4, one candidate stumbled, knees hitting the sand, another slowed, looked back, and without hesitation grabbed her by the vest. That one, Kayla Ortiz, smallest in the group, built more for endurance than brute strength. Rosa's gaze lingered on her. There was something there, a steadiness that couldn't be taught. Later that evening, the candidates faced the log carry 500 meters, 6 people per log. Synchronization under exhaustion. The air smelled of salt and pain. When the team faltered, it was Kayla's voice that kept them moving. Stay with me, Step. Breathe. Drive. Her words didn't command. They anchored. Rosa noted it in her logbook, leadership under duress, unforced authority. Hours bled into night. The candidates were soaked, blistered, hungry. Rosa remembered those same hours from years ago, the cold surf of Coronado, the doubt that crept in when darkness fell. Now she watched it unfold again. At 300 came the water confidence drill, underwater gear retrieval. 2 candidates surfaced early, gasping, panic in their eyes. One shouted, "I can't find it." Rosa knelt at the edge of the pool, voice calm but cutting. "Then control your breathing and go back down. Panic wastes air faster than effort." The recruit hesitated, trembling, then nodded and dove again. By dawn, 10 candidates had quit, 13 remained. The final evolution hit harder than any before. Team extraction scenario simulated field rescue under hostile conditions. The candidates had to locate a dummy casualty, secure it, and extract under mock suppressive fire. Kayla led the last team. "Move! Move!" she shouted as blanks cracked across the range. Her team stumbled through sandbags, dragging the dummy through cover. One of her teammates froze, disoriented by the chaos. Rosa watched from the platform, eyes sharp. Every instinct in her screamed to jump in, to lead. But she stayed silent. Let her fight it. Kayla's eyes darted, calculating. She took a deep breath, the kind that clears the static. "Matthews, take the left flank, Taylor. Cover fire." She moved like someone who'd stopped thinking about fear and started thinking about survival. They reached the extraction point 2 minutes past the limit, exhausted, drenched. But together, Rosa approached as medics checked the recruits. Kayla sat on the ground, arms limp, chest heaving. "You hesitated," Rosa said quietly. Kayla looked up, shame flickering across her face. "Yes, ma'am. I didn't want to get anyone hurt." "Good," Rosa said. "That means you care. But next time, remember, hesitation doesn't keep people alive. Decisions do." Kayla nodded, eyes steady. Later, when the field went quiet, Rosa stood alone by the seawall. The ocean stretched endless and gray, just like the one she'd left years ago. The air smelled of salt, oil, and something deeper, memory. She heard footsteps crunch behind her. Commander Hargrove approached. "They're breaking records. You know," he said. "This class is holding longer than any group in the past 2 years. Rosa didn't turn. They haven't met the real test yet." Hargrove frowned. "And what's that?" She looked toward the training grounds, where the candidates rested under a sky streaked with orange. "The test isn't surviving the course, Commander. It's surviving yourself after it's over." As the sun dipped behind the horizon, a whistle blew in the distance, signaling the start of the final 12-hour gauntlet. Rosa tightened her grip on the clipboard, the weight of her past heavy in her hands. Tomorrow, one of them would either quit or prove everything she'd fought for was worth it. The final dawn at Naval Station Silvercliff came wrapped in gold and salt. The ocean breathed slow against the shoreline, carrying the sound of waves and the faint cadence of boots on wet sand. The last of the candidates had just completed the gauntlet, 12 hours of chaos, exhaustion, and silence. Rosa Lockwood Vega stood at the edge of the training field, clipboard in hand, watching them. Sweat, sand, salt, all blended into the same expression she'd worn years ago. Determination, pain, pride. Kayla Ortiz knelt in the sand beside her teammates, trembling but unbroken. She'd led her team through the final simulation, dragging the mock casualty through the mud while everyone else hit their breaking point. She hadn't shouted. She hadn't panicked. She just refused to stop. Rosa walked toward her, the sound of her boots muffled by the surf. "You hesitated less this time," she said softly. Kayla nodded. "I remembered what you said. There's no perfect decision, just the one that keeps your people alive." Rosa's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then you understand the difference between leading and commanding." For a long moment, neither spoke. The sky over Silvercliff turned from gold to pale blue, the kind of light that makes everything look honest around them. The other recruits were silent, not from exhaustion, but reverence. They knew they'd witnessed something rare, respect earned the hard way. Commander Hargrove approached quietly, his hands behind his back. "They'll talk about this class for years," he said, "and about you." Rosa shook her head. "They won't remember my name, Commander. They'll remember what they became because someone believed they could." He gave a single nod. "Not military, not formal, just human. That's the kind of legacy that lasts." As the recruits were dismissed, Kayla lingered, eyes fixed on Rosa. "Ma'am," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "How do you know when you've done enough?" Rosa looked out over the horizon, the ocean glinting like steel, the same sea that had shaped and tested her. "You never do. You just keep showing up, even when nobody's watching. That's how you know you're still worthy of the Trident." From her pocket, she pulled out a small object, a weathered coin, its edges smoothed by years of friction. She pressed it into Kayla's hand. "This isn't for luck," she said. "It's a reminder that strength doesn't shout. It endures." Kayla's throat tightened. "I won't let you down." "You can't," Rosa said gently. "You'll carry it forward." The recruits filed off the beach, their silhouettes fading into the glare of morning. Rosa stayed behind, alone with the surf and the ghosts she'd long made peace with. She slipped her hands into her jacket, feeling the weight of the trident pin against her chest. The world would move on. New names, new missions, new wars, but the promise remained the same. Real strength doesn't ask to be seen. It just keeps doing the work. Respect isn't given by rank or title. It's earned through action. In silence, Rosa turned toward her car, the wind tugging at her jacket, the sun breaking fully across the base. She didn't need applause, or headlines, or ceremony. She'd already won the only battle that mattered, the one within. And behind her, on the sand, a new generation of warriors began to run, following the quiet footsteps of the woman who proved what impossible looks like.